One evening, when the sun had set and the stories had come out, a grandfather and grandson sat near the hearth. The boy looked at his grandfather and said, "Grandfather, I was wondering, why do bears have hands and feet so much like ours?" The grandfather smiled, for he always had an answer that came in a story. A long time ago, there was a poor farmer, and he and his wife lived in a little shack. The earth that they owned could barely grow anything, and they had no animals, they had no chickens, they had nothing. They were always hungry, and every time they looked at their neighbors, they were jealous, and they wanted what they had. And one day, the old man decided to go into the woods, cut down a tree, bring the wood back, and sell it to his neighbors for firewood. So he put his axe over his shoulder, and he walked deep into the woods. Now he found a clearing. In the middle of that clearing, there was a gnarled old lime tree. When the old man saw it, he thought, now this would be good for firewood. And he reached back with his axe to cut that tree, but then the tree spoke. "Axeman, lower your axe. I am a magic tree, and if you spare me, I will give you what you desire, be it health or wealth, be it position or power." Now, the poor farmer thought this was a good idea. So he lowered his axe. The tree said to him, "What do you need, my friend?" The farmer thought for a moment, and he said, "Could we be richer than the other farmers? Could we have a nice cottage and animals? And could we have rich soil?" And the tree lowered its branches almost as if to nod, and it said, "It is already done. Go home." Well, the old man ran back to his hovel, and when he got there, it was gone, and there was a beautiful cottage. There were chickens in the yard, a barn full of animals, grain waving in the fields, and his wife stood there in amazement. He told her the whole story about the magic tree and the wish, and they were content for a while. But after a week, they started to think, why should we work so hard as farmers? Merchants don't work nearly as hard. So the man and the woman went into the woods, and they came to the tree. And the tree said, "My son, what can I do for you? We're tired of working with our hands. We want to be rich like the merchants." And the tree lowered its branches as if to nod and said, "It's already done. Go home." And when they got home, their farm was gone, and there was a beautiful house instead. They had servants there to do their bidding, and they were content for a while. And after a while, they thought, why should we bow our heads to lords and ladies? And they went back to the tree. And the tree saw them coming and said, "My son, what do you need now?" "We feel that we don't want to be merchants. We want to be lords and ladies so the people will bow to us instead of us bowing to them." And the tree lowered its branches again, and it said, "It's already done. Go home." And when the man and woman got home, there was a palace waiting for them, and servants bowed to them. And when they walked through the streets of their village, everyone bowed, and they were content for a while. And then they realized that there was someone that they had to bow to, the king. And so the old man and the old woman went back to the tree. And the tree saw them coming and said, "My children, what do you need now?" And the old man said, "We don't want to bow to the king. We want to be a king and a queen too. We want everyone to bow to us, and we'll bend no knee to no man." Now this time the lime tree looked at them, and the bough, instead of bending, shook from side to side and said, "That cannot be. You should be content with what you have." But the man had brought his axe, and he started to raise it. And the tree said, "You raise your axe to me who have given you so much? Have I not raised you from a poor peasant to a rich farmer? From a rich farmer to a rich merchant? From a rich merchant to a lord? And now you threaten me?" And And the man said, "We will be a king and a queen." And the axe went higher and higher, and the tree pleaded with the man and his wife, begged them to understand that it was greed that was making them do this. But that axe went higher and higher. The tree said, "You cannot become a king and a queen. They are not made, they are born." But still the axe went higher, and finally the tree said, "Enough! You will be a king and a queen. You will be the king and the queen of the bears, and you will roam through the forest forever, looking for what you've lost." And the old man and the old woman, they felt their bodies change, and they fell to all fours, and a thick coat of fur covered them, and they ambled into the woods, where they live to this day. And they come out at the edge of the woods, and they look at the villages and the farms and the houses of men, and they remember what they once had and how they lost it. Now the little boy turned to his grandfather and said, "Is that a true story, grandfather?" The old man smiled and said, "True enough. There's always a lesson in these old stories, my son. Greed can take everything you have away from you. And remember, the only true treasure you have is in the truth that lies in your stories." And that's the story of the magic lime tree.